To welcome the diplomatic community and thank you for joining us. We've had so much yoga that it's Yoga Week, and we're honored that you've decided to continue the celebration with us tonight. So I would like to thank you and recognize the diplomatic corps from Belgium, from Bosnia-Herzegovina, from the Dominican Republic, from El Salvador, from Georgia, from India, from Mexico, Nepal, Norway, the Palestine State, Paraguay, the Ukraine. Thank you, Excellencies, for joining us and giving us your support. I also would be remiss if I did not really acknowledge and give recognition where it's due to the yoga masters, because in some ways this day belongs to them. It is their day. The way they've dedicated their life to yoga, to uplifting society through this process of yoga is something that we are grateful for them. And joining us tonight, we have some people that I would like to recognize. And we have with us Swami Brahmananda Saraswati from Rishikesh. If you could stand, he was with us for our very first yoga event back in 2015. We also have Swami Prakashanananda, who is also involved with UN work, and he's involved with the Committee of Religious NGOs, and he's been part of our program last year as well. Swami, please stand up so we can thank you for joining and supporting us. I want to make a special vote of gratitude to all of the Brahma Kumaris from Daddy Janki onward, because the Brahma Kumaris has been doing incredible work in India and around the world. And they have been a foundation of the yoga work that the Yoga Day Committee of the UN has been doing. And a lot of people have come together through the community of the Brahma Kumaris, from Sister Jenna, who's in the DC area, on downward. So I give special gratitude and recognition to the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. Thank you to the brother who came from Mount Dabu, from Audubon, to join us at the UN and here tonight too. It's very special to have you in our presence. I would also be remiss if I did not thank strong supporters and partners of ours, because this is how we come together and join and appreciate people for all their contributions, big and small. So I would like to thank members of the UN Secretariat, our good colleagues there, our friends, members of the UNSRC Enlightenment Society, the UNSRC Yoga Club, the Values Caucus of the UN, and we have members of the board here tonight, so thank you for your strong support and for promoting values and yogic values within the work of the United Nations. But most of all, I want to thank you, because it seems like we are all friends. And I was going in and out and running around earlier, and so many people said, "Hi, Denise." We're all saying hi to one another because we, at the end of the day, are all friends. And so many of you have joined us in one way or another. So thank you for your energy and your support, for your heart to come with us tonight on this journey of experiencing yoga, the ultimate connection. I would also like to thank these volunteers and dedicated people who have been part of the planning committee. When we have an event like this, it is a huge amount of energy and effort and action that goes into having something successful like this. So I really want to thank Anne Savoni, Sam Leal, Julia Grindon-Welch, Gayatri Narain, Sabita Madhvi, Sushil Doval, Victoria from the Scandinavian House and all of her incredible staff who have helped us in so many ways for so many days. The Nishpati Foundation, who at the very last minute agreed to come in and serve and take photos and do video. We so appreciate the service and their support. Thank you so much, Swami and Nishpati. I'd also like to thank a common friend of ours, Diane Williams from the Source of Synergy Foundation, who brought so many of us together and who also helped us bring in our special guests. Again, this event is partly successful because of so many people who do work that we don't realize needs to get done. From the ushers and the brothers and sisters who have helped us prepare the food, to do the programming, and to do all of this logistical work and all this help, I give you such a vote of gratitude and thanks for bringing your energy to help us tonight. And I think that we can give you all a round of applause. Please join me in that applause. We have a change in program. We're going to have the performers, don't worry about that. We still have our special guests. But our moderator, Audrey Kitagawa, is unable to join us tonight. She had an emergency. I am going to take on the role of moderator tonight in Audrey's absence. And I am going to ask, if you've looked in our program, you may be aware we're going to have a meditation later. So that when we come to that time, we turn our attention in meditation, that we can remember Audrey, her mom, and her family, you know, and that we can really bring our heart to their heart. So music is a force that can transform consciousness. And having said that, I am thrilled that we have someone who's dedicated his life to using music to actually just do that, to have a healing aspect of music in different ways, and to help to shift human consciousness for the better. I met Paul Luftenegger through Sister Jenna, who's a BK. And when I met Paul, we had this immediate connection. I had heard some of his music and I was touched deeply within my heart. And some of you are here because you're here specifically with your connection to Paul and his music. So you know what I'm talking about. And the rest of you are going to find out really soon. So I want to let you know that beyond this incredible life mission and soul purpose, Paul is a real humanitarian, working with youngsters, girls and boys in school, going on medical missions to help people who are not able to hear, become able to hear through receiving hearing aids. And for those of you, when you came in, you got a program, you got a CD that Paul has generously donated for you as a token of his gratitude to be here tonight and to share his music. Beauty.
Take a ride with me to paradise. Heaven's in your heart beating inside. You're alive, the great divine, older than time. Yes, you are loved, and the stars in our sky, billion-year-old lights light the sky. can you feel the universe through your heart? The divine design of you. The time has come for you to honor the miracle of you. And you are so beautiful. The way your body moves and holds it all. Your heart lights up hearts, and your love illuminates our world. Your soul is old. Your soul is old. And the stars in our sky, billion-year-old lights light up the sky. And can you feel the universe through your heart? The divine design of you. The time has come for you to honor the miracle of you. Oh, the rose being long, and the heart, your heart is so strong. Let your love lift you up. Let your heart rocket you to honor the miracle of you. Om Shanti.
Nancy Govia and Elizabeth Carlucci.
Shivani, and I have to say, I've watched her on YouTube, and I have felt this incredible stillness and this peace. And I'm honored that we can be here for you to share this. And with Bruce, I was commenting yesterday to some of us who were at the UN about how just through his eyes and the way he looks at people who rushed him after the UN event, that he has such loving compassion and kindness. And this is where we start. So I'm going to ask, what, in your opinion, is this ultimate connection? And if you could start, Sister Shivani.
Om Shanti. The word yoga in Sanskrit means connection. And many of us say that we want to learn yoga. But actually what we're not aware of is we are in yoga 24/7. Every moment we are in connection. I, the being, is in connection with myself, because my every thought that I create influences how I feel. So I'm in yoga with myself. Second, my every thought that I create radiates to my body. So I, the being, am in connection with my body. So that's the second yoga of my life. Third, every thought I create radiates to the person for whom it has been created. So like you said, we are in yoga with each other today. So our relationships are a result of our yoga with each other. And fourth, every thought I create influences nature. Plants, water, air, the planet, the universe. So we are in yoga with the environment. But today if we look at all these four aspects, how I feel, my health, my relationships, and my environment, we want something to change. Because there seems to be a little disturbance, pain here, a little disease here, a little conflict here, and we know what's here. And all these four can change with the fifth yoga. And that fifth yoga is the ultimate connection. So if I connect to Him, the higher power, and I take that power from Him, and that will change myself, and when I create a change here, the remaining four will change. So that's the first yoga, which will influence the other four. And I personally feel if we start experiencing that ultimate connection, ultimate why? Because it's the highest, and ultimate why? Because it's the most powerful. It can create all the four miracles. With that connection with the Supreme, we can create happiness here, health here, harmony here, and heaven on earth. With that one connection with Him. So it's only that one connection with Him which is, if disconnected, then pain here, disease here, conflict here, and a lot of things here. So that's why it's the ultimate connection, because it's the foundation for the remaining four connections, the yoga of our lives.
When you came in, you have an index card in your program. Feel free to write down questions or comments that you'd like to pose to our speakers. We will be collecting them so that we can have some audience contribution. That's why you have that index card. Now, Bruce, Sister Shivani said something very interesting, which I think you have something to say about this concept of heaven on earth. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, so address what you want.
How many hours? And before I go to that, I, like others, want to really express my deepest appreciation to have you here, because your time is so valuable, and that you're spending time with us. I'm deeply appreciative and in gratitude, because you came, and I hope we have something. I know Sister Shivani does. I hope I have something to offer as well. And so I'll start with the connection. I'm was trained as a conventional biologist, and I taught in a medical school. And then I was not a spiritual person at all. When I was very young, I heard words of wisdom from so-called spiritual people. But even as a child, I could say, well, their words never matched their lives. And I got, as a child, I was like, oh, okay, maybe how valid is that? But I also then saw that science seemed to be a very valid understanding, because whatever was scientifically true on this side of the planet was also scientifically true on the other side. So in my development, I really thought about spirituality as I gave it no value. And I ended up becoming a molecular biologist, saying, oh yes, this is a physical mechanical machine, and there are genes in there and chemistry, and then we live this life, and then we return to chemical pieces in the soil. And I thought, well, that was it. But I had an opportunity to study cells much different than anybody else had. I had the opportunity to clone cells, which was a very unusual thing, because I was doing this in 1967. I was cloning stem cells, and nobody, there was a handful. There were less people in the world that knew about stem cells than are in this room at this time. And I had this opportunity, and I was teaching in a medical school that we are the consequence of genes. Genes are programs that give us our life, give us our body, and also because, as far as we know, and I will change that later, as far as we know, we didn't pick the genes that we came with. And the belief that genes turn on and off and control us, and we don't control them. And if you don't like the traits you have, you can't change the genes. I was teaching a concept called victimization. You're a victim of your heredity. If you have a cancer running in your family, you think, oh my goodness, I have the genes for this cancer, I'm going to get this cancer. According to the science I was teaching at the time, I would give credit to that belief as being true. So I just very simply said, what changed my life? And the answer was this: while I'm teaching in the medical school the concept of genes control life, I was cloning stem cells. And stem cells are magnificent cells for a very simple reason. We are not a single entity. In truth, we are comprised of 50 trillion cells. The cells are the living entity. When I say the word Bruce, that's a name for a community of 50 trillion cells. So every day, we lose hundreds of billions. These are numbers that are, it's easy for me to say billions and trillions, but conception-wise, it's like, that's numbers that are so big. But every day we lose hundreds of billions of cells, just natural. And the fact is that since you're all here, and you've been losing hundreds of billions of cells every day, how can you account for that? And the answer is because we are endowed with stem cells, which are embryonic cells in your body right now. Do you have stem cells? Well, if you're here and you're alive, the answer is yes. And the significance about stem cells, they're multi-potential embryonic cells. So I put one stem cell in a petri dish by itself. This is called cloning, just one cell. And it divides every 10 to 12 hours. After a week of cell divisions, I have 30,000 to 50,000 cells in a petri dish. But what's most important, they all came from one parent. So I have 50,000 genetically identical cells. I split the cells into 3 different petri dishes. And I changed the culture medium. That's the environment that cells live in. I said, well, what is culture medium? Well, as a biologist, if I'm going to grow human cells, I look at human blood and try to make a synthetic version of that, and we call it human culture medium. If I'm growing mouse cells, I look at mouse blood, the composition, and try to make mouse culture medium. Since I'm making a culture medium, I can change some of the ingredients. So I have 3 dishes of genetically identical cells in each dish, but in each dish I provide a slightly different environment. And in one dish the cells form muscle, in another dish the cells form bone, and in a third dish the cells form fat cells. And you have to stand back and go, well, what is controlling this? And we say, well, genes are controlling. I say, yeah, but they all had the same genes. So the genes didn't make that difference. It was the environment. And all of a sudden I started to realize, oh my goodness, I'm teaching genes control life, and then in the laboratory I recognize genes are not controlling this at all. It's the environment, it's the composition of the culture medium, And now I wanted to extend this to you as an understanding is, well, basically then what controlled the fate of the cells? Not the genes, the environment. I said, well, that's nice, cells in a plastic dish. But I go, wait a minute. I said, you're not a single entity, you're a community of 50 trillion cells. You are skin-covered petri dishes. Inside, under your skin, you have 50 trillion cells. And I go, yeah. But I say, what controls the fate of the cells? Well, the first thing is not genetics. It's the environment, it's the blood. I go, yeah. So the composition of the blood determines the fate of the cells? I go, yes. And then I say, what determines the composition of my blood? The brain. The brain is the chemist. I go, okay, but which composition should the brain make? And when I jumped to the next step, it was like, oh my God, the composition is based on the mind. The mind, if I look at someone and I see love, my brain translates love into chemistry that complements love. Dopamine is pleasure from love. Oxytocin comes from the brain, which is bonding with the one that provides love. Vasopressin, another chemical released when you're in love, gives you an attractiveness that keeps your mate there. And growth hormone comes out in love. I said, wow, when you're in love, you're so healthy. When people fall in love, it's sometimes the healthiest they've ever been in their life. And I say, why? The culture medium is now containing chemistry that promotes health, happiness, love, joy, and everything that comes with that experience of love. And I say, yeah, but the same person opens their eyes and sees something that scares them. I go, oh, the love chemistry is not going to come out of the brain. What comes out is chemistry of fear and protection. I say, oh, well, these are stress hormones that come out. And they change the physiology of the body to get us to not be in growth, but in protection. You know what's interesting? Growth you have to be open to. You want to take something in, you have to assimilate it. So when people are in love, they move to the stimulus that is giving that love, and they move open. I want to take it in. Whether it's nutrition or other individuals' love, you have to be open. Protection is a different response. When something is causing you to get in protection mode, you don't go to them, you go away from them. And you don't stay open, but you close yourself down in protection. And so what's interesting is our biology is the result of our interpretation of what we see in the world. And then all of a sudden it says, but we all have different perceptions about the world. And so we can all be in the same environment and have totally different biological expression. So I started getting into this, and I realized I had to leave the medical school. I couldn't teach anymore. Because I'm teaching people that they're victims. And what am I finding out? It's the environment and our perception of the environment that controls our genetics and our health. I say, why is it relevant? Because I can change my environment, and I can change my perception, and all of a sudden I'm not a victim of my genes, I'm the master of my genes. And all of a sudden I realized, we are doing such a disservice to tell people, I'm sorry you have these genes and you can't do this, and people say, oh, I don't have the right genes, I'm not the right person, or my genetics, and I'm going, no, we are all creators. You are creating your life with your perceptions and your beliefs. So I'm very excited about all this, and the next level was... The next level was my colleagues pulled away from me like I had the plague because they were all genetic people. They were all into genetics, and I'm going, genetics? That's not relevant. And it's like now I'm, an anathema to my own community. So I left the university because I realized I had no heart to go into a classroom and immediately program people to be victims and give up their power. Because when you're a victim, you recognize you are powerless, and then you have to seek a healer from the outside when you are the healer. So the bottom line is I had to explain how this could happen because my colleagues said, look, this doesn't make any sense to our world of genes. How can this happen? So I spent some time and I found out the genes were not controlling the cells. The skin of the cell called the membrane was the controlling factor. Why? The skin was reading environmental signals and translating our perception of the environment into genetics that will complement that environment. It makes wonderful sense. I can summarize this in 1 second, and the answer is, how does life work? We hold pictures in our mind of the world that we think we live in. And I say, yeah, but that's in the mind. I say, yeah, but the brain is to translate that picture into chemistry. It's a positive picture, positive chemistry. It's a negative picture, negative chemistry. And the brain releases that into the blood, the culture medium, and that controls our genes. And all of a sudden I say, oh my goodness, the mind is controlling all this. And I was very satisfied and so excited because I recognized that the mind is controlling this. And as I was studying that, all of a sudden it hit me. I said, wait, there are no two people the same. I mean, biologically, you cannot take your cells out of your body and put it into another person's body. Because if you do, the recipient, the immune system, the recipient says, not self. This isn't me. Where are these cells? These are not my cells. And the immune system will eliminate the foreign cells. I said, wait then. Each of us must have in ourselves an identity. Because if I put it in, the other body can recognize the identity. I said, what's the identity? And it's interesting because there are a set of proteins which are like little antennas, like little television antennas on each of our cells, except for the red blood cells. That's why we can exchange blood if you have the right type, ABO. And I reckon, oh, these are, and interestingly enough, science recognized them. They call them self-receptors. And they use them to match a recipient of an organ to a donor of an organ to make sure if there's an overlap of the receptors, then the immune system won't be so aggressive. That's how you pick who's going to donate a heart or a kidney and who's going to be the recipient. But I looked at it and said, oh my God, these receptors are self-receptors, receptors, receivers. I said, but where are they? On the outside of the cell. And in that instant, all of a sudden, I had a transformational life experience because I realized my identity is not in here. My identity is a broadcast from the environment that my antennas are picking up. And each one of you has a different set of antennas. Each one of you is receiving a different station, a different identity, but it's yours. I said, why is it relevant? So I said, look, I'm a television set. I'm receiving a broadcast, so here you're seeing the Bruce show right now. And then I realized the next thing. I said, well, when the television breaks, we say the television is dead. And I go, yes, the television is dead. It's not working. Oh, but is the broadcast still there? I said, yes. You can get another television set, plug it in, turn it on, and tune it to the station, and you're back on the air again. And all of a sudden, my life was transformed because I realized I'm an identity that's a broadcast from the energy, the environment, and I am playing through this. If I die, my identity is still here. And guess what? If a future embryo comes up with the same set of receptors, I'm back online. A different body. A different TV. Most important, is it a male or female TV? That's irrelevant. That's a TV. Is it a black TV or a white TV, a yellow TV, a red TV? No, that's a TV. That's not who you are. You are the broadcast. You're immortal. You live there. And this is for what? To experience this planet. And what's interesting is you think your consciousness is trapped in your head, your thoughts are in your head. I can put wires on your head and read what's called EEG, electroencephalographic, and read your brain activity. And everybody goes, yeah, that's inside and it's conducting to the skin. There's a new device, not EEG, electroencephalograph, it's called magnetoencephalograph, MEG. I say, what's relevant? The probe doesn't even touch you. The probe is out here. I said, what? I'm reading my thoughts? I'm reading my brain out here? Oh my goodness. You think your thoughts are contained in your head? They're broadcast to the field. They're going back to source. You came here for experiences, and the body is a physical device that translates sound, food, music, taste, touch, love. Every experience you have is broken down by the nervous system into a vibration, an energy, and you broadcast that energy back to your source. So when you're here, you're creating a life experience that is changing through broadcast.
So let's get back to the source then, because this is the ultimate connection. And I want to ask Sister Shivani to really let us explore or start to unpack a little bit of what Bruce shared with us. One of the things is something that's very similar to what Sister Shivani said, which is about the perceptions influencing how I feel and matter, right? That was one thing. And then the other thing I want to ask you is, from a practical standpoint, how do we connect, right? How can we, what are the processes or what are the practical ways that we can really make that connection to that oneness?
Very beautiful thing that we've understood. It's about the environment in which the cells are there. And what is influencing the environment? Like we just saw, love will create a different environment, and fear will create a different environment. And who is the creator of the love or the fear? It's I, in response to the situation. The victim feeling is when we have blamed situations for how we are feeling. I am upset because of, I'm happy because of, I'm angry because of, and we literally live our life believing that what we are feeling is because of something in someone outside, and that's a victim feeling. And when I live that life of a victim, my body will respond to all those emotions that I'm creating, because situations are not always the way I want them to be. And because situations are not always the way I want them to be, my emotions are not always the way I want them to be. And today, many of us say, I don't know why I'm living in fear. And you ask them, is there any problem in life? No. Then fear of? I don't know. Fear. Just fear. Fear of future, fear of what will happen to my family. I'm just living in fear. Now, how do I heal that emotion? Because if I don't heal that emotion, even like brother said, we can go to a healer for the body, but after some time the disease will manifest again. And that's why whether it's any disease, we hear that once you're treated, you're not healed, you're treated. So the doctor will treat us, but we will have to heal ourselves. Because if we only depend on the doctor treating the body for that illness, and the mind is not healed, so the same emotion of fear or anxiety will manifest the disease again. So healing and treating are two completely different things. So the medication, the surgery will treat the body, but we will have to heal the mind and to change that emotion so that one, I never get that disease, and one, if I have it, I should be able to heal it. Because what happens is the doctor is treating it, and I'm creating that emotion, I'm not well, I'm not well, I'm not well. And I create a thought, I have cancer. We just heard, it's not I who has cancer, it's my body who has cancer. They're two completely different belief systems. So when I create a thought, I'm happy but my body has cancer, I'm radiating a completely different emotion to the body. I am well and my body is being treated, I'm radiating a completely different emotion, and then I am a part of the healing. I'm not a part of creating the disease. So important in meditation is, how do I change my emotion? How do I change my thought? And how do I change from the life of a victim, dependent on others for how I feel, to shift to creating a life of a master, where I create my thoughts, feelings, and emotions irrespective of the situation. Stimulus may not always be pleasant, and the stimulus could be a spouse, a child, a colleague, or anything bigger than that. But stimulus may not always be pleasant. Stimulus may not always be the way I wanted it to be. But there's only one thing which can be the way I want it to be, and that's how I think in response to the stimulus. And that's what Raj Yoga gives us the power to separate the response from the stimulus. And which means if she insults me right here in front of 100 people, earlier life of a victim I would say, obviously I'll get hurt. She insulted me. Victim, dependent on her. Raj Yoga says, Master, I have a lot of options. She insulted me, whether I should get upset, angry, hurt, indifferent, or compassionate towards her. I have 5 options. I have 5 options, and now I choose my option. So I've shifted from being dependent on her for how I feel to being independent, which means dependent only on the one inside for how I'm going to feel. So I take charge of my feelings, my health, my relationship, and my world. But in order to be able to create those beautiful thoughts in challenging situations, I need a little more power. And that power is coming from here. Because it's like a battery inside which is a little discharged. I try to charge myself every day by creating the right thoughts, but I'm living in an environment where there are a lot of discharged batteries around me. So even if I'm a little charged, and then I meet a discharged battery when I get to work, that battery will discharge me. So the need of the hour is to spend about 15-20 minutes connecting to the power supply and go to work with a fully charged battery. And then you can charge other batteries around you. You can charge other batteries around you. They will meet you and say, just meeting you, I feel nice. I was upset, but just being with you for 2 minutes now, I am at ease. Earlier it would be, I was fine, but after meeting you, I'm upset. So earlier we would be discharging each other, and now we are charging each other because we have charged ourselves before leaving early in the morning. So I always feel like you spend half an hour to charge your phone. Give half an hour to charge yourself. Like we cannot leave home without charging the phone. We cannot afford to leave home without
We do have some ushers who can pick up the cards. If you filled out a card and you have questions, please hand them to the ushers who will be coming down the aisles so that we can pose a couple of questions. We do have time for a couple of questions from our audience members. But you know, I guess I'm going to ask both of you, how do you really make that connection? For a practical standpoint, for people, sometimes we say, well, how do I connect with the divine? What do you mean? How can I connect to God? Like, what do I do?
How do I connect to you? How do you connect to anybody? How's the connection? You will have a beautiful connection even if the person is not physically present next to you. A member of your family, not present here, but you have a beautiful connection. You're not looking into their eyes. If you don't think of someone, there's no connection. So whoever I think of, my mind gets connected to that mind. And so just think of, like we experience a mother comes to know the child is unwell or is in pain somewhere. How does the mother come to know that the child is mother and the child's mind is connected? So the mother is thinking of the child, and there the child is in pain and mother can feel the pain. Why? Because the two minds are connected. Connected how? Because she's remembering the child. The child may be in another country. She's only thinking of who the child is, how the child is, qualities of the child, not thinking of him. Whoever I think of, my mind will get connected to them, and I will experience what they are experiencing. If I think of, so he somewhere right now is not coming top on our relationship list, because we have not developed a daily personal relationship with him. And when we start developing that personal relationship, we will be sharing, talking, communicating, everything, starting from good morning, first thought. Good morning. Talking to him before you're leaving to work. Inviting him before your every meeting. Asking him to use you as an instrument before your every interaction. Personal relationship like the parent and the child. It's a relationship. So there's no technique to think about him. It's just like a parent and a child. How does a child remember a parent? We remember him. And when we remember him, we receive his energy and we experience that. It's very personal. Just start tonight with the last thought, good night to him. First thought tomorrow morning, good morning. Yes, because we begin the day with good morning to our parents. So good morning to him, personal relationship. Before having your breakfast, thanking him, inviting his purity into our food. The cup of tea, milk that I drink, I energize it. In every step then there is God in our life. And that's when we become a Karam Yogi. Karam Yogi means the one who's doing karma in action, but in yoga. So in meditation and into action, meditative lifestyle. So God is with us in every thought, word and action. Then we can imagine what life would be like. That's when heaven on earth becomes a reality.
I really loved what you said about the ocean of purity. And this comes back to, I think, the miracle of life and that sense of something so greater. And we have a question for Bruce that I think, again, goes beyond this idea of victimization. Bruce, you said every thought creates an image based on which the brain creates chemicals. What happens with the images over time? Does the brain get confused?
Well, it's interesting because you say I have images about health and happiness and relationships, and I love all these images, and then I try to go out in the world and they don't manifest. And at this point, then you say, well, then if I'm controlling my life, then what happened here? And now I need to provide the most fundamental piece of information. I'm talking about the mind is controlling the genetics and the behavior. That's the new science called epigenetics. When I say genetic control, it means control by genes. When I say epigenetic control, epi means above. So epigenetic control means control above the genes, mind. And when I say the mind, that's when it gets confusing, because we say the mind. I say, no, there are two minds. There's the conscious mind. That's the creative mind. That's the one that your unique identity, your spirit is coming into. You are that entity in your conscious mind. You are downloaded from your spirit in the conscious mind. And that's the mind that's creative. That has wishes and desires and positive thinking. And I go, yeah, but how come with all my wishes and desires, I'm still having trouble manifesting? And now here comes the most important piece of information. And as I said, there are two minds. The conscious mind, you, your spirit, your uniqueness. But the subconscious mind is a very powerful mind. It's actually 1,000,000 times more powerful an information processor than the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is the habit mind. It's what you learned in the first 7 years of your life that sets up the habits. In fact, the Jesuits had said for 400 years, give me a child until it's 7 and I will show you the man. What they knew was whatever program goes in the first 7 years, you will inevitably express that program through the rest of your life. You go, but no, my conscious mind is creative. I don't need to play those programs, 70% of which are negative and disempowering. I'll just operate my conscious mind. I go, great, one problem. When the conscious mind is thinking, the subconscious mind becomes the autopilot. It takes over. So if you're walking down the street and you have a thought with your conscious mind, it doesn't mean you stop walking. You can keep walking, driving a car, you can keep driving and you're thinking. I go, oh, so when the conscious mind is thinking, then my life is not coming from my conscious mind, it is now coming from my habit mind. I'm going to give you this number and take it seriously. We are only conscious on the average 5% of the day. Because 95% of the day we're in thought. And then when we're in thought, we play autopilot. And I go, but autopilot is what? Programs that I got, but where did I get them? My family, my community, and my culture. So I say, oh, so 95% of the day, I'm not actually driving my biology with my wishes and desires. I go, no, you're playing these programs, many of which are disempowering, self-sabotaging. And then you would say, but I would see that if I was doing it. I say, no, because your conscious mind is busy thinking. You do not see the auto program when it's playing. Other people see it. So my story that is profoundly important, and it's a short story, but it's profoundly important, is this. You probably had a friend you knew when you were growing up. You were close to your friend. You knew your friend's behavior. And you happen to know your friend's parent. And one day you see your friend is doing the same behavior as their parent. And this excites you because you have to tell your friend. You have to say, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. And you back away from Bill. Bill is going to go ballistic and say, how can you compare me to my dad? Let me give you the whole profound nature of that. Everyone else can see that Bill is acting like his dad. The only one who doesn't see it is Bill. And I say, yeah, but if 70% of those programs are disempowering and self-sabotaging, that means 95% of the day you are not going in the directions of wishes and desires. You are just playing a program that you cannot see. You only see the result. So you go out in the morning. Today I'm going to find love. Today I'm going to find the best job. Today I'm going to get help in my life. And I say you started out in the morning, and at 5 o'clock you come home at night and you realize it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And then you have to look at yourself and say, the universe is not giving to me. It's not in my nature to have these things. I'm a victim of forces outside of me. And it's like, no. You were doing it all day long, you were sabotaging yourself, and all you see is the result, and you didn't even see you were involved. And then I say, wow, so we've been running programs 95% of the day, and then we have trouble with finding a life that we want. I'm going to close this. And I say, there's a time in your life where you stop defaulting to the program. A time in your life where you ran on consciousness, wishes, and desires. And science has recognized one of these times, and that is when you fall head over heels in love with somebody. Your life could be troubled every day, and then you meet this person, 24 hours later, it's like, oh, life is so beautiful, I love everything. Oh my God, even my job, I love everything. I go, well, you manifest heaven on earth. I said, the day before, there was no heaven on earth, and now today there's heaven on earth. You know why? Science has recognized when you fall in love, you stay mindful. And when you stay mindful, you don't default to the program. And the moment you stay mindful, you are not operating from program, you are operating from wishes and desires. What was the result? You took a life that wasn't that great, and the moment you let go of the program, you created heaven on earth. You can do this all the time. It's only your invisible subconscious program you got from the last trimester of pregnancy to the first 7 years. These are the programs that run your life 95% of the day. But when you become mindful, which is an exercise, you don't play the program. And the moment you don't play the program, you are the creator. And you can create wishes, desires, health, you can heal yourself, you can do everything. But if you default to thinking, you are now going to play the programs that have sabotaged you your whole life, and you had all those wonderful positive thoughts. And I go, yeah, but you were thinking, you were having a positive thought, which meant you weren't expressing a positive thought. And if you understand this, there's no reason why a honeymoon cannot be every day of your life for as long as you live on this planet. The moment you recognize, I am not playing those programs, I am going to create right now, live. And I'm creating, not with just what's in my mind, I'm creating with conscious mind, which is connected to source. And all of a sudden, that's the difference between a troubled life on this planet and heaven on earth on this planet. We're not victims of nature. Nature wants to give you everything. You didn't realize we were sabotaging ourselves. And when you let go, you can have all those things you wish for.
I'm going to let Sister Shivani have the last word, but I do want to say that we have a question that you may want to think about and see if you can incorporate it into your remarks, because I think this is useful to many people. Why do you refer to God as He?
It's an extension of what Brother was saying, that the programming that we carry is actually not just from the womb until the first 7 years, but like he shared earlier, the TV changes, and which means the body changes, and we carry forward and change and take a new body, and which means the programming that I'm carrying here right now, and if the time comes for me to change the body right now, I'm going to take the programming with me. So something that could have happened to me in an earlier costume, because of which I've created a programming of, let's say, feeling rejected, feeling betrayed, feeling let down, and I didn't heal myself, and the time came to change my costume, I will carry that programming of feeling rejected. And then I'm in the womb of the mother, and there probably my parents are talking about gender preference, and I again get a vibration, and it reinforces my programming, I am rejected. There's a lot of science right now which is talking about psychology which is getting created in the womb of the mother. And a lot of programming that's happening there. But a lot of programming we are carrying from our past costume. Now, like you said, first 7 years, and after that we can't change the programming. That's where spiritual power comes in. That it doesn't matter how old this costume is today, 7 or 17. Doesn't matter, we can change the programming. Because if I feel I can't change the programming, then I'm again a victim. That now I've crossed 7, so how would I change the programming? But like Brother said, the silent mind, when the conscious mind becomes silent, then it becomes very easy to change the programming. And Raj Yoga meditation is actually about changing that programming. We call the word sanskars, personality traits, habits. Habit, not external habits, but subtle habits, like getting angry is a habit. Experiencing fear is a habit. Experiencing jealousy is a habit. It's a sanskar. And any sanskar can be changed at any age. And it's the biggest investment we can make, because that will not only just make my present beautiful, it also ensures that when I leave this costume and take the next costume, the baby will be happy and not carrying any wrong programming of the past. So we can change our programming at any age, because it's the programming of this and nothing to do with the age of the dress that we are wearing. Why we refer to God as He? No, we don't need to. We don't need to. We can refer whatever we want. Energy, consciousness, with whom I would create a relationship of a mother, a father, a teacher, and like he said, fall in love, So if we fall in love with him, like brother said, in 24 hours our programming will change. So after we hear this, we might start looking for, okay, now how do I change my programming in 24 hours? Fall in love with he or she is not, because he and she is for the gender of the costume that we are wearing. It's just depends on what relationship I'm developing with him. When it's a father and a child, he. When it's a mother and a child, I say she. And actually it's neither he or she, because it's an energy, consciousness, no gender in that, so no he and she.
I'm gonna ask that we move on. We've had a very rich time listening to Bruce and Sister Shivani, and we've covered so much that I think as we leave and we go through our various days and the next days, and we'll get some inspiration where things can hit us in a different way. I know that this is my experience sometimes when we have people who give profound insight and share their wisdom. I wish we had more time, but we are going beyond what we originally anticipated already. So, what we're going to do is have Paul come back, and then we'll go immediately into turning our attention inward and have Sister Shivani lead us into meditation. So I would like to, thank again Bruce and Sister Shivani for their wisdom.
Each of us could change at least one habit today before we leave the room. Because otherwise, if we go back the same as we've come, then which one would we like to take up? How many of you create anger? No one? Let's take it up as a little homework. Next 7 days, come what may, whatever may be the situation. People and situations will not be our way, but we are masters, not victims. We choose to create anger, and we will choose for the next 1 week that situations cannot overpower me. I overpower the situation. And I am separate from the situation, and just 1 week consciously choose to be assertive, be disciplined, and discipline others, but not to react, to get disturbed, and to get angry. 1 week?
2 weeks.
Actually, it was supposed to be 1 week only to see that we have the power to do it. And if we can do anything for 1 week, we can do it forever. Programming has changed. So we should take up a homework every day like this. That today I am a peaceful being. So come what may, anger is not going to be a part of my life today. And just doing that every day, very soon programming has changed. But I need to work with that programming. If I have the habit of criticizing somebody, then I choose today, come what may, I will not criticize anyone. I will not be judgmental about anyone. I accept everyone. I appreciate everyone. Programming. But implementation during the day. And habits will change. Programming will change. So 1 week, peaceful divine beings. Angels going to work. Angels with family. Playing different roles, but angels. And we know how angels work. And we will see that changing a programming is probably the simplest thing to do. Projected as the most difficult thing, but actually the simplest thing to do is to change a sanskar, change our programming. And once we start doing it, we can help others to change their sanskar, and the world will change. So 1 week.
The song is called I Believe in You. we see ourselves as kind toward one another. First for ourselves, then for others. We are one world of love. We are the universal love. We must teach the children it's all about the love. We must model and lead this world with all our love. Oh, I believe in you. Oh, stop and look up at the pretty skies of blue. Smell the fragrant flowers, they are growing for you. And watch the sunset upon the oceans. See the stars fill up the skies at night, and find the rainbows that are yours. The universe is full of treasures just for you. Oh, I believe in you. Oh, help the endangered species. They need our help. Oh, help our precious, precious planet. Cradle the earth with your heart. And love yourself, and love your neighbors. Brothers and sisters, that's who we are. And find the rainbows that are yours. The universe is full of treasures just for you. And I know I cannot do this on my own. I'm not big enough to do this life alone. I know I need all the help that I can get. That's why I'm calling all the angels and the saints of love. Because I believe in expanding the love. And I've learned that if you get lost and scared along your way, you must always know that the love in your heart will be the light that guides you home. Please hold each other's hands right now. And let's believe in each other today, okay? And leave with that. Just imagine what's possible with love. Because I know in my heart that you're an angel. That's who you are. Because I know in my heart that you're an angel.